Details this morning about the political implications of President Trump's attack on the 4 progressive congresswomen as the president now tries to distance himself from the send-her-back chants during Wednesday's rally. He's claiming his shots at Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota and the 3 other progressives were not about politics.
I don't know if it's good or bad politically. I don't care. Many people say it's good. I don't know if it's good or bad. I can tell you this. You can't talk that way about our country. Not when I'm the president.
Joining me now is Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright, former senior advisor to Hillary Clinton's campaign in South Carolina, and Boston Herald radio host Adriana Cohen, also a nationally syndicated columnist. So, Antoine, I'll start with you. Yeah. Why do you think the president is trying to create this narrative that it isn't about politics after spending all week hammering these 4 congresswomen?
Oh, because we're raising the issue. The one thing we know about this president is that he does things in a moment to put us on the distraction pathway, and then he goes back to being somewhat normal and try to walk it back, and then 3 weeks later or 3 months later, it'll be back to the same thing. We know that this president is a racist. We know he's a bigot. These are the bedrock things or the foundational things that have molded and shaped his career. But as Democrats, I think we're setting ourselves up for political suicide if we make this the 100% focus of the 2020 campaign. We have to learn how to jab and go. Jab him on the racism and hit him where we need to, but go on to the issues and highlight the fact that he's been a failure to this country on quality of life issues, and that's how we win up and down the ballot.
Adriana, the New York Times' Nate Cohn, he looked at this through the lens of 2020, as we've been talking about, in a new report titled Trump's Electoral College Edge Could Grow in 2020, rewarding his polarizing campaign. It says a strategy rooted in racial polarization could at once energize parts of the president's base and rebuild support among wavering white working-class voters. Many of these voters backed Mr. Trump in the first place, in part because of his views on hot-button issues, including immigration and race. So, do you think that he's going to get a political advantage from fueling this racial polarization?
You know, it's hard to tell because on one hand, he could mobilize his supporters, you know, patriotic Americans who don't like, you know, the Democrat Party, this squad, as they're being called. You know, a lot of them are anti-Semitic. Okay. A lot of them are anti-Semitic. They've made anti-American comments. They want to abolish ICE. They've compared our brave patriots at the border to Nazis. Jeez. A lot of Americans are repelled by these type of extremist comments. And so President Trump could, mobilize patriotic, loving Americans, or he could possibly turn off some voters who believe that his rhetoric is a bit too inflammatory. But again, it's all going to come down to the kitchen table issues. It's going to come down to the strength of the economy. And are most Americans better off today than they were 4 years ago, you know, in the prior administration? And the answer is yes, because the economy is booming.
Adriana has a point in that the economy is definitely booming, and that's a good thing. But my question here is about racial polarization here. Is that really a good idea? Is that actually patriotic to not be able to criticize your country and the way policies work?
Adriana, there's so much you said that...
I just asked Adriana a question, so let's give her a chance to respond here. 1 second.
Yeah, President Trump's issue with these 4 congresswomen isn't about race. It's about their ideology. I mean, some of these women have made extremely anti-Semitic comments. They support BDS. So they're anti-American. They compare America to garbage. You know, so this is the problem that President Trump has with these 4 congresswomen. It has nothing to do with race. Although many people on the left want to make it about race, it's not. It's about their ideology. And Trump supporters know he is not a racist. He's a man, a president who loves our country, and he doesn't like to see it trashed day in and day out by these congresswomen.
We have a racist and a bigot who ran on making America great again. If America was so bad, why did he run on this notion? Number 2, you and I both know, and it's sad that you will not admit the fact those comments were racist and they were race-based because he know it generates a certain response. What's so scary about what you just said is you are very much like Trump in message discipline that will try to use the word patriot to replace racist. We know that what these comments mean. We know what Trump was trying to do. He was trying to generate a response because those words are the same type of rhetoric we heard in the 2016 campaign And he is starting this campaign the way he ended 2016, Adriana. And we know how divisive those words are and what they can mean and how they put these members of Congress in harm's way. And make no mistake, for Democrats, these words will generate a certain excitement among the Donald Trump base, and that's why he continues to do it. We will be fooling ourselves if we think he will not do it again.
Adriana, I want to talk about the president's tweets last weekend. It sparked a lot of controversy amid the already growing scrutiny of what's happening inside the administration's border detention centers. And with those tweets, the president effectively changed the subject to racial issues. So is that the idea, is to take the spotlight and move it? Because these conditions in the detention centers are deeply, deeply disturbing.
Well, you're absolutely right, Jolene. That we do have a crisis at the border. There's no question about it. And that's why the president has been asking for help, asking Democrats for help to solve the crisis for over 7 months. And they've done nothing but restrict and obstruct.
That's
and so
a lie,
if we have,
Adriana.
yes, that's true. I mean, Nancy Pelosi and Senator Schumer and all the Democrats, they claimed it was a manufactured crisis, not a real one, for the past 6 months. So if we have the problems that we're seeing right now with overcrowding and other issues, this is on them, because if they would have worked with the president in a bipartisan fashion 6 to 7 months ago, we wouldn't have had this crisis.
Well, so a question to follow up, Adriana, then. If the president was so concerned about the issue on the border and the deplorable conditions there, then why shift all of the attention to basically race-baiting questions about people who are also serving their country?
Well, look, I have a column out this week in the Boston Herald. It's titled "A Tweet Too Far." I wasn't a fan of the president's tweet because, he had a line in there which said, go back to where you came from, basically. And as you know, these 4 congresswomen, as much as I disagree with a lot of their policy positions, they are Americans, so they're not going anywhere. But my point is that President Trump has, about 160 million social media followers. He can change the subject, with just a tweet. That's the kind of power he has, the office of the presidency has, and he can discuss anything he wants to. I think the losers here this week were the 20-plus Democratic presidential candidates, because they got pushed off the news cycle. They got pushed off the news cycle, and the media solely focused on this squabble between the president and the squad.
Adriana, let me remind you, the president does a good job of distracting the American people away from his failures from a policy standpoint, and that's my loud cry to the Democrats. Well, the fact is, the economy is doing well for some, but not doing well for others. When he tweets these racial things, it takes the attention away from that, from the border, from health care, the #1 issue that we face in this country. And the fact of the matter is, House Democrats led the charge to pass a minimum wage bill this past week that will change the lives of the American people, that will die in the Senate and will not make it to his desk. And no one in the news cycle is talking about that. And so we know what his tweets will do. And that's why we have to say laser focus on kitchen table issues that really impact this country.
Well, it sounds like the two of you actually agree on something this morning, which is a little refreshing. So Antoine Seawright, Adriana Cohen, thank you so much for joining us. Breaking news on Iran.